आपके सामने ये जूम लाइब्रेरी का एक क्लिप है। जूम लाइब्रेरी आपकी बाकी जो फिजिकल लाइब्रेरीज होती है उसी का एक वर्चुअल कॉन्सेप्ट है। यहाँ पर आप यूपीएससी, स्टेट पीसीएस या फिर किसी दूसरे कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स के लिए जो बाकी लोग प्रिपरेशन कर रहे हैं उनके साथ एक नॉन डिस्टर्बिंग एनवायरनमेंट में अपनी पढ़ाई कवर कर सकते हो। एंड आपको एक ऑर्गेनाइज एनवायरनमेंट मिलता है जहाँ कोई डिस्टर्बेंस भी नहीं होती है। प्लस में आपके सिटिंग आवर्स बहुत अच्छे से इंप्रूव हो जाते हैं। एंड इसके अलावा हम लोग कुछ शेड्यूल्स भी रन करते हैं एग्जाम स्पेसिफिक जो भी हो रहा होता है, जो आपको सिलेबस वगैरह कवर करने में बहुत हेल्प करता है। सो यू गेट अ वेरी ऑर्गेनाइज एनवायरनमेंट टू इंक्रीज योर सिटिंग आवर्स। अगर आप इस कॉन्सेप्ट को ज्वाइन करना चाहते हो तो इसी वीडियो के नीचे टेलीग्राम में टेलीग्राम चैनल का लिंक है, आप टेलीग्राम चैनल पर जाइए, वहाँ पर डिस्क्रिप्शन में एडमिन का यूज़र नेम होगा, आप कॉन्टैक्ट करके जूम लाइब्रेरी को ज्वाइन कर सकते हो। Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we'll be unpacking a topic that's been making the waves across the nation, that is one nation and one election. So what's the buzz all about and how could it change the face of the Indian democracy? Let's stick around to find out. So why the one nation, one election is grabbing the headlines right now? Well, the Union Cabinet has just accepted the recommendations from a very high level committee. This was led by our former president, Mr. Shri Ramnath Kovind ji, and this committee is pushing for the simultaneous elections across the country to streamline the governance and reduce the cost. So this is a very exciting development. Well, we need to understand these simultaneous elections. What are all these things? So what exactly are simultaneous elections? So you have to imagine yourself that you are casting your vote for the Lok Sabha, for your state legislative assembly, and in fact even for your local bodies like the municipalities and for your panchayats, all around the same time. Now this around the same time does not mean that everyone votes on the same day, but the elections, they are scheduled close together. All right, so we'll try to understand. There is a very fun fact. Did you know that India used to have the simultaneous elections? So back in 1951, 1952, 57, 62, and in fact in 1967 also, we, the citizens of India, we voted for both Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies together. So this practice changed when some state assemblies, they were dissolved early in the 1968 and 69. And then the Lok Sabha was also dissolved in the 1970, throwing the election cycle out of the sync. Now let's talk about why we might need these simultaneous elections. So in the exam, there is always question which asks you about the cause and the need, the point which triggers such kind of impact. First off, governance and development take a hit during these frequent elections. We all know about the model code of conduct that comes into play, halting the new government projects and the policies. So this thing, it can slow down the economic growth and it delays the crucial investment decisions. Now imagine pressing the pause on important infrastructure projects every few months. Also, these frequent elections, they can disrupt the supply chains and the production supplies as well. How? See, you need to understand the migrant workers, they often return home to vote, which means the factories and the businesses, they might face the labor shortage during these election times. Now, there is a major about the financial burden and the financial aspect also. Elections, they are very, very expensive. Okay, so you all remember about the 2019 elections, the Lok Sabha elections in India. For instance, their cost was 60,000 crores. This is like more than $8 billion US dollars. So holding these elections simultaneously would significantly cut down these costs. We can move down to the human resource section also, like the security forces, the teachers. So they all are pulled away from their regular duties to manage these elections. Now, these simultaneous elections, they will reduce this diversion. It will allow them to focus on their primary responsibilities. Now, fewer elections also means the fewer disputes, which means easing the burden on our courts. And let's not forget about reducing the identity politics as well. Frequent elections can amplify the caste and class divisions, which will disrupt the societal harmony. Lastly, The voter fatigue is a very real thing. You must have heard about this voter fatigue word. So when people are called to vote frequently, they might start skipping these elections, which isn't good for democracy, right? Simultaneous elections could boost the voter participation by making the process more efficient. You need to understand about the committee and their recommendations. In the next step, we'll try to understand. So, what did this high-level committee recommend? Here is the scoop of all these recommendations. Now, they suggest that synchronizing the elections in two phases. In the phase 1 of these elections, we would have the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assembly elections. In the phase 2, the local body elections like the panchayat and municipalities would happen within 100 days of these general elections. Now, what are general elections? General elections are Lok Sabha elections. So that means in a cycle of 100 days, all the elections will be completed. Okay, so to make this work, we need some constitutional amendments, right? The committee has proposed changes to some articles, which will also add 12 new sub-articles here. That means we are tweaking the laws which are related to the union territories, and the state legislative assemblies. Here, we are specifically targeting the Article 83 and the Article number 172. Also, we'll be working on the other articles. So, there is one key recommendation which will play important role here. That will be about the Article number 325. Okay, how? So, we need to have a single electoral roll that will be prepared by the Election Commission of India. So, this will also be done with consultation to the State Election of India, State Election Commissions, right? And this requires amending the article number 325. Now, this amendment would streamline all the voter list and reduce the duplication. However, since this thing it involves the state subjects from the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution and part 9 and 9A of the Constitution, so ratification, you need to remember these points. These are the questions which are frequently asked in your prelims exam. Ratification by at least half of the states is required under the Article 368 Clause 2. Extremely important point for the exam point of view, right? The committee, it also noted down that while these amendments are related to the terms of the parliament and the state assemblies won't need the state ratification, the changes concerning the local bodies will definitely require the ratification. So on the logistical front, the Election Commission of India will plan for the EVMs and the VVPATs. Okay, the polling personnel, the security forces for these national and state elections. For the local elections, the State Election Commission will coordinate with the ECI. Finally, an implementation group would be definitely required that would monitor and execute the entire process. It would ensure everything runs very smoothly. We also need to look at the challenges and the complexities of these simultaneous elections. Okay, because see, you need to understand everything is not sunshine and the rainbows. Okay, there are significant challenges ahead. Number one would be the regional issues. They might get overshadowed. So you need to understand how this thing works. If we are voting for the national and the state representative at the same time, then the national parties and their agendas could dominate the discourse. This might push the local issues and the regional parties to the sidelines. Okay, speaking of the regional parties, they could be at a disadvantage. The national parties, they might have more resources and visibility, making it very hard for the regional parties to compete effectively. Political accountability is another concern. These frequent elections, see, simultaneous elections, one nation, one election, and frequent elections. These are the synonyms that we use. Okay, so do not create any kind of confusion. If I'm saying frequent elections, that means same simultaneous elections. That means same one nation, one election. So these frequent elections, they keep our leaders on their toes, forcing them to be responsive to the public needs. Now, moving to the fixed terms could reduce their immediate accountability. Are you able to understand this difference? at this moment, right now, whatever pattern we are following, every time the political leader has to remain on their toes. That new election can come up. Okay, now state election is coming, now local election is coming, now national election coming. Every time they are on their toes, they keep working. But once they know that the election is going to happen once in a 5 years, there is a risk involved. So this is one of the challenge of simultaneous election. There are federal concerns. Okay, amendment to the article number 172 regarding the term of the state assemblies. Now it can be made without state ratification. That means if we are making some changes without the state ratification, that means we are sidelining the state's voices. All right. So this could strain the delicate balance between the center and state relations. And again, looking at the logistical point of view, when we organize these simultaneous elections in a colossal task, so we would need millions of EVMs and VVPAT machines. So for context, if I have to put a fact here, in 2019, in the election, we reused almost 1.74 million EVMs. Plus, we would need to train a massive workforce to manage the electoral process smoothly. Now, if in 2019 we used 1.79 million, okay, let's make it like 1.8 million. Okay, so 1.8 million is 18 lakhs. That means if we have to assume the increase in the population, okay, let's assume we will be needing 2 million for the state elections. Overall, we need 2 million machines. Now, these 2 million machines will remain idle for the next 4.5 years, you can say, because they will be used only after 5 years again. So this becomes a logistical issue again. There are multiple issues involved. You need to understand all of them. Okay, so these are some quotes given by the very popular people from the government of India. You can definitely use these quotes in your exam. So there are two quotes. One is given by the Dr. S.Y. Qureshi. He was the former Chief Election Commissioner. So what did he say? He says, elections have become the root cause of corruption in the country. After winning elections, the politician and the bureaucrat nexus indulges in recovering the investment, and that is where the corruption begins. Now it's your choice. If you think you want to write it, you can write. Then this one is, adoption of one nation, one election in India is likely to brook well with the spirit of constitution and also with the principles of collaborative federalism. Now this is a very important keyword for your exam. Okay. So in the end, where do we stand? Simultaneous elections could bring efficiency and save the resources, but we must tread carefully, balancing these benefits with our core principles. The core principles are federalism, democratic integrity, okay, political diversity. All these things are very, very crucial. So this isn't a decision to be taken lightly. It requires thorough legislative debates, input from all the stakeholders, and perhaps even a broader public discussion. After all, any change to our electoral system impacts every citizen in this vast nation. So you need to share your thoughts also. No? You need to understand, you need to debate with your friend circle that should India adopt one nation, one election. And if you find this informative, then you need to make your own notes as well from this topic. So I'll be providing the mind maps of this topic. Those mind maps will be available to you guys. But the topic is very important because every 3-4 months this topic gets repeated in all these monthly magazines. Our topic number 1.2 is global AI governance. So what's the big news? The Council of Europe has just opened up world's first legally binding treaty on AI for signatures. Yes, this is right. The treaty is all about making sure that artificial intelligence, it respects human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. Now, this is going to be a huge step forward in regulating how the artificial intelligence is used globally. In 2019, an ad hoc committee on artificial intelligence, or we call it CAHI, C-A-H-A-I, this thing kicked off this whole initiative. Now they were tasked to see if creating a legally binding AI treaty was even possible. And guess what? They made it happen. For those of you who might not know what is the Council of Europe, this was formed back in 1949, and now it has 46 member countries, including not just the European nations but also countries like Japan and the USA. Because usually when we talk about the Council of Europe, we do not focus on countries like Japan and USA. Alright? And this treaty isn't happening in isolation. This treaty is also aligning with other big moves like the G7 AI Pact, okay, the European AI Pact, and the Bletchley Declaration. So in overall, I can say that this is where the world is uniting to make the AI safer and more reliable for everyone. Okay. So what's covered? The treaty, it looks at how both governments and the private companies, they use the artificial intelligence. So whether it is a government agency or a private company acting on behalf of government, they all have to play by these rules. Okay. So countries that sign up, they are obliged to make sure their AI activities, they do not violate any human right or mess up with the democracy. That means now the AI powered surveillance that also infringes on privacy or the algorithms that could sway elections unfairly. This is going to make things very interesting. Okay. The treaty, it does not target any specific technology. See, this is a very important point to understand about these treaties. So the examiner can make questions from this point. Okay, I'll repeat. The treaty is not targeting any specific technology here. It is technology neutral. Alright, what is the meaning of this? That the rules apply no matter what kind of AI tech you are using. It could be machine learning, it could be neural network, or it could be something else also. Alright. They have adopted a risk-based approach. This means that the AI systems will be regulated based on the level of risk they pose. High-risk systems like those used in the healthcare or the transportation will face stricter rules. If it is less risky, that means less strict rules will be applied. Obviously, there will be some exceptions, all right? The national defense activities, which are purely like R&D, they are excluded unless they could interfere with the human rights or democracy. Also, the military AI projects, they might not be fully covered unless they pose a direct threat. This is like usual in any kind of treaty. So the treaty also emphasizes on the fundamental principles like transparency, okay, accountability. All these are the fundamental principles. Fairness throughout the AI systems life cycle, from design to deployment to decommissioning, all these things. Reliability, safe innovation. So far, have you ever tried to understand that do we really need these kind of AI governance in future? Okay, so why do we need this global AI governance? Well, the artificial intelligence, it can be a double-edged sword. That means it is bringing us amazing benefits, but also it has risk like the job loss due to automation, okay, the biased algorithms that could discriminate, and even the possibility of AI powered weapons. All right, these weapons could be leading to an arms race in future. See, AI can create the deep fakes, okay, the ultra realistic fake videos that can spread misinformation. Now imagine the impact on elections. We have just covered the topic one nation, one election, right? Imagine the impact on these elections if those fake videos of politicians saying or doing things that they never did, these videos start to circulate. This will become very risky to understand, right? Many countries, especially in the global south, they don't have any say in how the AI is governed globally. They lack the voice in decision making. So this leads to the policies that might not consider their unique challenges and needs. Then comes the data breaches or the misuse of AI because it doesn't respect any kind of border. Any kind of privacy violation in any country could affect the users worldwide. So international cooperation becomes very, very crucial here. Sometimes these artificial intelligence systems, they don't do what we intended them to do. For example, an AI in the healthcare system, okay, it would recommend you incorrect treatments, or a social media algorithm that would promote harmful content. This misalignment can have serious consequences. How can this thing lead to a wide scale deployment? See, artificial intelligence is everywhere now, from you can say hospitals, okay, to banks, to police departments, to even police departments have started to use the artificial intelligence to predict the crime spots. So the more we rely on the artificial intelligence, the more important it is to ensure that it is governed properly. That's why we need the global level AI governance. So when we are trying to implement such a wonderful thing, definitely we are going to face challenges. Okay. One big challenge is the representation gap. Did you know that only 7 countries participate in all the major AI governance initiatives? Not all the countries have participated. So that leaves out about 118 countries. Okay. So this lack of inclusivity, it can lead to the policies that don't address all the global concerns. There are many global concerns which have not been added yet. Another issue is the coordination gap. So without a global standard, countries they develop their own rules, which lead to a fragmented approach. All right. So you must have heard about these keywords. Fragmentation means in Hindi we call it टुकड़ों में बट जाना. One country is playing by some rules, another country is playing by some rules. This causes problems when the AI system need to work across the borders. Right? Then comes the implementation gap, obviously. So even if we have the rules, enforcing them is a whole different ball game. Many countries they lack the resources or mechanisms to hold the organizations accountable or to build the AI capacity effectively. Then what to do? So far, what are the steps that have been taken to regulate this? So India's Niti Aayog, it has launched hashtag alt AI for all. This is a strategy. Okay. So it is an initiative to leverage artificial intelligence across various sectors. So the idea is to make artificial intelligence work for everyone, not just for a select few. Then the Niti Aayog also released the guidelines which will be focusing on the ethics and the accountability. So this thing will provide a roadmap for both the government and the private sector to implement the artificial intelligence very responsibly. We have Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. In short, we call it MITI. Some people call it MITI, TA or TA. That sound are by different choices. And they have this national program on artificial intelligence, which aims to boost the innovation and skills while addressing the ethical issues. Okay, so this thing includes setting up centers of excellence and promoting research and development. Then we have the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which strengthens the individual data rights. Okay, so individuals are being taken into consideration at this point. You need to remember, and this is very crucial. You know, when artificial intelligence system it collect and process vast amounts of personal data. Then India is also a member of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, which is collaborating with other nations to promote responsible artificial intelligence use globally. So this is what all has been done on the level of India. Then you need to also mention some steps taken on the global level. So the G7 countries, they have come together to create a framework for responsible artificial development. So while the participation here is voluntary, it sets very important standards for AI ethics and the governance. Then European Union is leading with its AI Act, which we have talked earlier also. This categorizes the artificial intelligence applications based on the risk. So high risk applications like the facial recognition in public spaces will face strict regulation. We also talked about Bletchley Declaration. You need to remember these declarations. They are generally asked as factual questions in your prelims exam. So this has been signed by 28 countries and the European Union. So this aims to build a common understanding of artificial intelligence risks and opportunities, especially as AI technologies continue to advance rapidly. So what is the road ahead? How can we move forward? Okay. Now, there was a UN report which was titled Governing AI for Humanity. So this report, it offers some great suggestions. They propose a flexible, globally connected approach to the AI governance, which includes setting up an independent scientific panel, much like the IPCC. You all have heard about IPCC, right? It is also a panel, and it is also an intergovernmental panel. It also recommended establishing a biannual policy dialogue at the UN. So this will keep the conversation ongoing, and any kind of, the AI exchange type of thing will happen. And so these AI exchange platforms, they will standardize the definitions and evaluation methods. Then working on the capacity side, we have many developmental networks coming up. They will provide training, expertise, etc. All these things. So in addition to all these steps taken, the artificial intelligence laws, they will address the unique challenges. They will ensure that the AI alignment with human values is crucial to prevent any kind of issues, like especially the discrimination or the spread of misinformation. So this is all about making the AI work for humanity, not against it. Okay. So we will wrap this topic here, and the global AI governance is not just a topic for the policymakers. It's something that will affect us all. For all you exam aspirants, this is a critical area that could very well show up in your papers. So keep this knowledge very handy. Now we have the topic number 1.3, that is grievance redressal mechanism. So grievance is all about the complaints, and redressal is how do we address them. So what's the buzz all about? We'll talk about MOPPG&P. This is the Ministry of Personal, Public Grievances and Pensions. We have another topic on pensions, so you might be able to relate easily. So this ministry, it has rolled out new guidelines that will make the GRM, the grievance redressal, more time bound, more accessible, and more meaningful. So you can see, you are future administrators. Someone from you will be becoming the IAS officers. Someone will go for the Indian Foreign Service. Some will become the Indian Police Service, get into Indian Police Service. Some will be into Indian Revenue Service and all sort of services. You can imagine where all your compete faster and more effectively, and you are the ones who will be taking charge of them. So this is going to be a very significant step towards the transparent governance that will align with the article number 19, clause A of the Constitution, which means which guarantees you the right to freedom of speech and expression. See, you all need to remember these fundamental rights, and you also need to have a very in-depth understanding which topic can relate to which fundamental right. All right, let me give you the key highlights of these guidelines. Now, UPSC has time and again asked question on the major guidelines. Do not skip these topics. Considering कि guideline ही तो है, we can skip them. No, there have been multiple questions based on such guidelines. Okay. So first up, the government is introducing an integrated user-friendly platform that will be linked with the CPGram. What is CPGram? CPGram is the centralized public grievance redress and monitoring system. Now this means that you will get a single window to file all your grievances, making the process smoother and more efficient. There will be no more jumping between the multiple websites. Plus, this integration will help all the officials to eliminate duplicate complaints, save their time and resources. Okay. Appointment of the nodal officers. The word nodal means responsible. Now, these nodal officers will be appointed by every ministry and department. Okay. These officers, they are your go-to people for the grievance redressal. They will ensure that your issues, they are all addressed promptly, fairly, and efficiently. So this move is in line with the recommendation of the second ARC. You all have heard about the second ARC. Second ARC also talks about these nodal officers. Okay. So it would empathize the accountability in public services. Then some dedicated grievance cells. They are also being set up. These cells will be manned by the officials who are very well versed in the department's scheme and activities. So when you file a complaint, you are dealing with someone who actually knows the ins and outs of the system. This aligns with the principle of Good Governance Day. When is the Good Governance Day celebrated? It is celebrated on the 25th December every year. This is also the birthday of one of our former Prime Minister. If anyone of you remembers his name, then please do mention it somewhere in the comment section. This is very, very important. And 25th December is definitely approaching. We do have Christmas Day on 25th December, but it's also birthday of a very popular, one of our former Prime Minister. Alright. Now comes the timelines. See, time is of the essence. The government has reduced the grievance redressal in timeline from 30 days to the 21 days. So that's a whole week faster. Okay. Now this change, it aims to make the system more responsive. It will ensure that your concerns are not left hanging. These quick resolutions, they will contribute to the higher public satisfaction and trust. Okay. Then we have grievance redressal assessment index. So to keep everyone on their toes, a monthly index will rank the ministries and the departments. Now this ranking system will promote healthy competition and transparency. It's like the government's own report card, which will push the department to perform better each month. Okay. Then the 2024 policy guidelines. So lastly, these guidelines, they showcase the technological advancement that are made through the 10-step reforms of the CPGRAM. So this was adopted in the year 2022. Okay. So these reforms, they have modernized the CPGRAMs, which has made it very efficient and user friendly. The features, they are like real-time tracking and all these things. Universalization, using artificial intelligence, providing this in all the 22 scheduled languages, indexes there, feedbacks call center, one nation, one portal, okay, and all these very popular features. They are the game changers in public administration. Okay, so after covering the major guidelines, we need to understand what the grievance redressal mechanism talks about majorly. So essentially, it is a system that will allow all the citizens to voice their concern, and when the services are not up to the mark or the rights they are violated, it becomes a cornerstone of democratic governance. It will ensure transparency and accountability. All right. So you can think of GRM, okay, as a feedback loop. It not only helps in resolving the individual issues, but this also provides valuable insights into the systemic problems. See, this also aligns with the directive principles of the state policy, which is mentioned in our constitution, the Indian constitution, right, which aims for the welfare state where the citizens' rights are upheld. Okay, now these are the two very key players here, that is DARPG, okay, and the Directorate of Public Grievances. Very, very important to remember. These two, they focus on the policy formation and the administrative reforms. So while the Directorate, it handles the grievances directly to the Cabinet Secretariat, You need to remember this, right? And this one, the DARPG, handles the policy formation and administrative reform. Together, both of them, they play a very crucial role in making sure that your voice reaches the highest level of government. All right. Now, these are some stats. So between 2022 to 2024, the CP-Gram portal, it has addressed nearly 60 lakh grievances. All right. Now that's a huge number. It reflects the system's effectiveness. Now with this, more than 1 lakh grievances officers are connected. Okay. So these are the number of officers that are connected to this system that they will serve you better. And remember that this CP-Gram platform is available 24/7. So you can lodge your grievances anytime. Okay. So there's more to this topic. This topic is little lengthier because this is concerned with respect to your GS2 paper. Okay. Government has several other initiatives that address and make the grievance redressal stronger. Okay. We have institutions like the CVC. CVC stands for Central Vigilance Commission. Then we have Lokayukt. We have National Human Rights Commission. Okay. We have State Human Rights Commission. They all play very pivotal roles. They handle your complaints about corruption, about abuse of power and human rights violation. So these bodies, they were established under various acts like the Protection of Human Rights Act of 1993. Okay, that would ensure justice and accountability. Now we have GRAI. This is another significant tool. So this was conceptualized by DARPG. It offers a very comparative analysis of the different organizations' grievance redressal mechanism, GRMs. So this tool, it helps you in identifying your strength and your weaknesses. It paves the way for targeted improvements. It's like the government's way of self-auditing. Then we have Pragati. Okay, so Pragati is a unique platform. This was launched by the Prime Minister himself. All right. So see, it's not mentioned here. I'm giving you extra information, right? This is multi-purpose and it is multimodal, meanings it handles multiple type of tasks at one time. Not only does it address grievances, but it also monitors the key government projects across the central, state, and the union territory levels. So this thing, it ensures the timely implementation and resolves the bottlenecks very effectively. You all have must have heard about the e-Nivaran. Nivaran is solution. This was launched by CBDT. Okay. So for taxpayer, e-Nivaran system was launched that would address the grievances very swiftly. It ensures that all your issues like the refund and the return processing, they are resolved promptly. Let me add more to this point that this initiative is in line with the government's Digital India mission. It enhances transparency and efficiency. Lastly, the Citizen Charter, it is a document. What is citizen? You must have heard about these keywords, right? This is a document that outlines the services which are provided by an organization, along with the timelines and the grievance mechanisms. So this Citizen Charter, it empowers you by setting your clear expectation from the government. You know, this concept of Citizen Charter, it has been taken from the UK. India took this concept in 1991, okay, to improve the public service delivery. We have two more sections to this topic. I do understand the topic is getting lengthier by every single minute, but please do not skip this video. This topic is really, really important. Else I would have skipped this topic completely. Okay, so this is the elephant in the room. Issues, the challenges that still persist in the grievance redressal system. Delays are of a significant issue. Despite the timelines given, these grievances, they often get stuck due to bureaucratic hurdles. Okay, and why do this get stuck? Because of the bureaucratic hurdles, because of the bureaucratic red tape or the resource constraints. This thing, it erodes the public trust. For instance, if you have delay in resolving the land dispute, this would affect the farmer's livelihood. It would highlight the need for quicker resolutions. Corruption, we all have heard about this. It can infiltrate even the grievance redressal mechanism. Do not think that the concept of GRM is free of corruption. Okay, the officials will demand bribes to expedite your process if unheard of. Okay, so this not only violates the legal statutes like the Prevention of Corruption Act of the 1988, okay, but it also undermines the entire system's integrity. Now, having too many platforms can become very confusing. So a farmer in Rajasthan might have to use a different system than a student in Kerala to file their grievances, right? So this is about the lack of integration. This lack of integration complicates the process and makes the tracking complaints very cumbersome. A unified system could solve this issue. Then we have digital divide. Okay, this is real. So according to the National Sample Survey, I'm giving you additional information here. Only about 15% of the rural households they have access to the internet. This makes it very challenging for a significant portion of the population to use the online grievance mechanism. Now, bridging these gaps becomes very crucial for the inclusive governance. All right. Now, way ahead in the now this is the last section of this topic. Okay. How do we tackle these challenges? Let's look at some recommendations and the step forwards. The second ARC Commission has suggested that the state should establish independent grievance redressal authorities. So setting these independent authorities would make the system more transparent. It will reduce the chances of biasness or corruption. Additionally, analyzing the complaints will help identify the systemic issues, much like how a doctor diagnoses an illness to treat the root cause. We have these parliamentary standing committees. Okay, they emphasize that making the system would be as straightforward as possible. They recommended giving it a statutory backend. That means they want you should give it an effect of the Act also. Mandate all the states and UTs to resolve them grievances fully. Alright. Then we have decentralization, which is always the key. Okay. So you have to empower the local offices. You have to ensure that the grievances are resolved faster and more effectively. Now this decentralization will make the system more accessible to people in the remote areas. So it's like resolving a problem at the local branch instead of going to the headquarters. Then simplifying the procedures will make a world of difference. So reducing unnecessary paperwork and formalities, okay, when we do them, we will be able to speed up the process. Setting up information and facilitation counters, which will assist those people who are not very tech savvy. See, you need to understand these kind of concepts. They align with the principles of ease of doing business, which makes our government more citizen friendly. Then regular reviews and the audits, they will keep the system in check. So by evaluating the performances of departments and officials, we can identify the bottlenecks. Then a solid feedback mechanism is very essential. We need to have the key performance indicator. In short, we call them the key KPIs. They like the response time, the resolution rate, citizen satisfaction. These are all the tools. These are all the indicators that we use. Okay, that allows for continuous improvement. Last but not the least, embracing the technology will help us revolutionize the grievance redressal mechanism, and AI can be of very great help. Okay, it will help us categorize the grievances. Then we have this data analytics, very popular term these days. It will help to identify the trend, the pattern. It will help in better resource allocation. So I can give you an example here. Countries like Estonia. These are the countries' name which you do not hear on every next day in the newspaper, right? So they have successfully implemented artificial intelligence in governance. So you can put this as an example in your exam. Okay, and it's high time that countries like India should do the same. So that's the lowdown on the GRM in India, the grievance redressal mechanism. This is an evolving landscape which is aimed at making the governance more transparent, efficient, and citizen-centric. So for all of you who are preparing for UPSC and even for SSC aspirants, understanding these mechanisms becomes very crucial. Not just for an exam, but also for becoming an informed citizen. All right. So we'll finish this topic here. Our topic number 1.4 is about the Unified Pension Scheme. And recently, the Union Cabinet has approved to this Union Pension Scheme. So you all must have been aware about this upcoming pension scheme. And you also know about the old pension scheme. You're also aware about this new pension scheme. So we'll do a comparative study about all these three pension schemes. And then we'll get to know which one is planned in what manner and how can it benefit the citizens of the country. So moving forward, you need to know about the basic facts that a committee was formed in 2023, and based on their recommendation, there was a demand earlier for the old pension scheme, and through that old pension scheme we have this newly formed Union Pension Scheme. Okay, so once we do the comparative study, you will get an idea about this thing. We'll start from the first one, the old pension scheme. In the year 1950, so immediately after the independence, this scheme was introduced, but this was applicable only to the government employees. So now people have this old conditioning of falling for these competitive exams, because this comes through this old age scheme where people were given this career security that once you are part of the government and when you retire, the government will give you some lump sum amount after the retirement till the time you die. So this was a major attraction, job security, monetary security. And in those days, in 1950s, the level of unemployment was also very high. The central government employees, they receive 50% of their last drawn salary. So for example, you are retiring at an age of 50, 60, like suppose you retire at the age of 60, and the last salary, the last month's salary you draw was 1 lakh rupees. So after this, now you are not part of the government job, but since you are part of the government as a central government employee, you are receiving 1 lakh rupees. Now you will be receiving 50,000 rupees per month in your account. So it was a fixed monthly income, and minimum 9,000 you will definitely get. This was the condition. Also, once the person dies, it was transferred to the family members. It was also granted to the widower, okay, and a dearness relief. So you must have heard about these dearness allowances. So if anyone of you have ever done the job, you know about the dearness allowances. It was also adjusted pension for inflation. So inflation means the rise in the general price. So for example, in the year 1950, the price of rice was 10 rupees kg. But in the year 1970, it would have increased by the price of rice would have been like 20 rupees per kg. So the pension would also be adjusted with respect to the inflation. The employee would not have to submit any or deposit any sum to get this pension. This was the most favorable pension scheme in those days. Then in the year 2014 came the new pension scheme. It was for the people who want to retire, and the people between the age of 18 to 65 are eligible for this thing to apply. Now the pension amount is not fixed here because it is a market linked scheme. That means lots of the factors are dependent upon the state economy, the inflation, and other financial aspects in the market. So there was nothing about the minimum amount under this new pension scheme. So once you are part of the new pension scheme and you are a government servant, so if you have opted for the NPS, the family will get the benefits also. There was nothing about adjusting the inflation in this scheme, but in this scheme the employee would have to contribute 10% of their salaries, while the employer means the company or the government which is hiring you, they will give 14% of your salary. So that's how you get the return. Now we have Union Pension Scheme. This will be effective from 1st April and it will be applicable to all central government employees. Okay. 50% of the average basic pay drawn over the last 12 months. So they will calculate that at the time of retirement, what was the amount of salary you were getting for the last 12 months. They will take the 50% of that average. Okay. And then it will be proportionate for a lesser service period. the time period has been defined here 10 years only. Here you will be getting minimum 10,000 per month, that is confirmed, that is guaranteed to you. Just in case the person is not living anymore, the pension would be like 60% of the pension. On the demise, the pension amounting 60% of the employee's pension before the demise. So basically, they have given a surety that your money won't be wasted if you are investing under this union pension scheme. Your family will be getting this pension. Definitely, they are adjusting this as per the inflation, but they are using the index of All India Consumer Price. So there are different indexes which measure the price rise in the country. You have read about all these indexes in your economy subject, and so this is the index that they will be using based on what is the level of inflation going on that time. They will be adjusting it here. Now, employee contribution will not increase. The government contribution has increased here from 14% to 18.5%. That means you will have to pay your 10%, but government earlier, which was paying 14%, now government will be giving 18.5% contribution in this thing. So this is a scheme, and the best aspect would be about how we can assure minimum pension and also ensure maximum financial security. So these are the schemes, and whenever such schemes come, there is a question. There might be a mains question based on this. There might also be a question which is the factual question, where some comparative study could have been asked from you. So study this topic, keeping in mind both your prelims as well as your mains exam. Now let me take you through the news in shorts. There are very small topics. These are majorly connected to your prelims questions. There is a term that is known as black coat syndrome. This is used in the courts. So recently, our president called out this black coat syndrome, and they have also at the Supreme Court to lead with justice for all. So there is also another term which is analogous to this, which is white coat hypertension. So when people they visit the hospital, they look around, the many sick people around, and many suffering with so many sickness, there is an increase in the people's blood pressure. That is when we use the term white coat hypertension. And then there is also anxiety which is experienced by ordinary citizens when they are into court settings. So this is what they call as the black coat syndrome. So why is there such a perception? See, as of 31st August 2024, there are 82,000 cases which are pending in the Supreme Court only. Overall in India, there are more than, I believe, 5 crore cases pending in India. So this data is given by the NJDG. You need to remember this data. Okay. So how can we make sure that this number of cases they are reduced? We need to modernize the judiciary. All right. We need to find some alternate modes of resolution. We need to bring some central sponsored scheme for this infrastructure. Right. And what about especially the codes like the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Samhita? So these are the codes which were earlier known as the CRPC, IPC. They were renamed in Hindi. And there are multiple things that we need to bring so that there is a mental and there is a financial pressure. Both are taken care of so that this syndrome is in control. So this kind of syndromes, they are majorly faced by people who are traveling from their villages to the urban areas in the court settings. So if we talk about the people who are moving from the rural area to the urban area, suppose someone is going from their village to the district in the court, then there is a data which says that only 6.7% of the court infrastructure at the district level is female friendly. That means there are not enough facilities available for the females. So these are the things which lead to this kind of black coat syndrome, and the president has urged to bring down this kind of syndrome and bring more justice to everyone. The rights of detenue in preventive detention. You must have heard about this detention kind of thing. Okay, so what is this? What is preventive detention? First of all, you need to understand preventive detention. That means you will be detaining a person but without any trial. Like you can just, police will go, they will arrest that person, and there will be no trial for that person. The person will be put in jail. But there was a case in 2024 in this year, Jasila Shaji versus Union of India. In this case, the Supreme Court has highlighted that a detained person needs effective representation against his detention. If somebody has been detained, the person should be given effective representation. We have laws for this detention. We have National Security Act. We have UAPA, the most commonly used act. Then we have COFEPOSA, COFEPOSA, which is not used too much. These are the two major acts. You need to remember these two. So these are just in case you do not remember the complete name, just remember the short name. Okay. Then we have Prevention of Black Marketing Acts. So if a person, so like anyone who is detained, he has a right to be furnished with the grounds. That means you need to tell him the grounds of his detention. Okay. Along with, you need to submit the documents of why this person has been detained on this ground. Okay. So if you are not representing the grounds, that means you are violating the Article 22, Clause 5 of the Constitution, which mandates the detaining authority must inform the detainee and provide a representation against this order. So the Article 22, Clause 3 of the Fundamental Rights allows the authorities that they can detain the individuals for preventive reasons. Preventive reasons means the police might get this assumption that this person can do something wrong in the next moment, in any time in the future. So to prevent anything that might not be favorable to the situation, to the law and order, they will detain you. But the Constitution also gives certain safeguards, because the detention can be misused also by the government authorities. So there are proper explanations about this preventive detention, about this particular act. This was just a short mention in the news in short. You need to remember these two acts and the fundamental rights. You will get it easily. UAPA, again we have this act, a short news. Supreme Court has ruled there will be 14-day timeline to grant section for the prosecution under this, which is mandatory and not discretionary. So this is just the news update. But what about this act? This is about prevention of unlawful activities. That means, again, government will detain you so that you do not conduct any kind of unlawful activities. There is plea bargaining. So plea bargaining means it's an arrangement, it's an agreement, arrangement between the defense and the prosecution. That means, suppose you are someone, you have faced some kind of problem, you are going to the police, you will complain about someone, this person did so and so with me. Now police can do this thing. So you are party A and there is party B. So the police will do plea bargaining. That means they will try to make this less offense or a reduced sentence by initially bringing both the parties A and B to an agreement. So as per the Ministry of Law and Justice, only 0.1% of the cases were resolved through plea bargaining in the year 2022. This is a data. The concept was introduced into year 2006 when some amendments were done to the CRPC, the criminal code of, or the criminal codes. Now they have been renamed. Then some amendments were done to the Rule 3 of the IT Rule 2021. Bombay High Court has struck down an amendment which was done to the IT rules, and the verdict was delivered in this case of Kunal Kamra case. So what happens? This rule is majorly talks about the fact-checking units. Okay. Then, as per the rules, the government has to identify the fake news. Okay, and they are empowered to take it down. But such news was to be flagged and taken down by the intermediary. If the intermediary means, suppose you are a Facebook owner, so you are the intermediary. Suppose you are the YouTube owner and the fake news is spreading on YouTube, then YouTube is the intermediary here. So in 2023, Supreme Court gave a stay on the center government's notification, and now Bombay High Court has struck down this amendment to this rule, which was done by the government. Okay, I believe. Okay, now we have one more topic. 23rd Law Commission has been constituted, and this Law Commission will perform from 2024 to 2027. They will review and recommend some legal reforms in the Indian legal system, and this is the major about the law law commission. You need to know that when new commission has been formed, there will be a full detailed topic in the coming months about this new law commission. Just remember this newly formation. Sanction for prosecuting a public servant. So recently, the government of Karnataka gave the approval to investigate the prosecution of the chief minister. So you need to know about the center and the state relations. This topic has connection to that thing. We have ASOSAI, that is Asian Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions. So It was established in 1979 with 11 members. India is holding the current chair for this thing. And the first assembly and governing body meeting was also held in New Delhi. The President of India recently attending the opening ceremony of 16th Assembly. So this is organized by the Comptroller and Auditor General, the CAG, in New Delhi. So CAG is a very important position when it comes to a UPSC exam and when it comes to the Indian Constitution's aspect. So do remember about any such kind of assemblies, and especially when India is holding the current chair. So that's it for the polity topics. Now we will be jumping to the next section soon.